From your class over at Rhode Island College. You want to just give us a short statement on what's going on with these signs and what you did, what the project was?
So in the fall of 2017, I had a first-year seminar, and these students, 15 of them, put together 6 signs for the North Burial Ground that cover sort of introductory material and locations with the map here. Some of the other signs deal with nature and the kind of animals, the kind of trees, things like that you find in the North Burial Ground. Other signs deal with other parts of the cemetery, the potter's field, the free ground, things like that. And so the students figured out what they wanted to talk about with the cemetery, which signs each of them wanted to work on. And then we got a grant from the Center for Research and Creative Activity, CIRCA, at RIC, which allowed us to actually make the signs, and we worked with a printer over in East Providence to put these together. The City Parks Department, the cemetery staff worked to actually build the stands here, painted these, did the landscaping, and also helped in just a lot of ways throughout this process. And certainly this was a project that involved the Friends of the North Burial Ground group, the City Parks Department, and the Rhode Island College students. And without any one of those partners, it wouldn't have come together.
Thank you.
Right there.
All right. Welcome. My name's Eric Christensen. I'm a history professor at Rhode Island College. My students in first year seminar class, an honors section last year, made these 6 signs with the help of the Providence Parks Department. And we have this one finished sign here, which gives you an idea of what the rest of them are going to look like once they're installed all over the cemetery. This whole frame and the paint job is all thanks to the Parks Department, and I think they did a wonderful job in a very short amount of time. So the rest of these will go in a similar sort of frame in different parts of the park. I wanted to say just a couple of things about the project, and I'll be pretty brief here, but last year this first year seminar group of students, 15 students, started working on these signs not knowing anything about cemeteries, not knowing anything about the North Burial Ground, what was inside of it, and within just a few weeks really, not even months, they managed to learn a lot about those topics, and they decided for themselves, with just a little bit of guidance, what the signs were going to focus on, what the signs were going to look like, how they would be oriented. All of this was student decisions, and I think they did a really amazing job in the end on each of these 6 signs. So we have 2 signs here that look at the natural environment of the North Burial Ground, one that focuses on land and water. I haven't looked at this in a while, and the other one that focuses on wildlife and trees. And we thought that, the students thought that this would be really important, and I agree, because people don't often think of a cemetery as a place to come see the natural environment, to look at wildlife. But of course the 110 acres here at the North Burial Ground has a lot of really interesting natural stuff. and we did want to call attention to that. This sign here will go near the front entrance, so when people come in the main gate, they'll have some basic introductory information about what they might find in the North Burial Ground, some of the highlights, and then of course the map is the same map that we see here on this sign when people come in this entrance. The free ground sign, which Vanessa right here worked on, will go way over by the free ground, and I think this is one of the really interesting stories. You can see on the map here that when they had a free ground, there was a colored free ground and a white free ground, and so we have this interesting story of how in the late 19th century the cemetery for a time, at least in the free ground area, is segregated, and then by the 1920s you have, of course, a desegregation of the free ground area. So this is a really interesting story. And then the Potter's Field, which is the area all the way over by I-95 across the Blackstone Canal that runs through the back of the cemetery, also tells these kind of forgotten stories. These are people whose graves aren't even marked with anything other than a number, and many of these people were prisoners in the state prison, many of them were in the state asylum, people who were forgotten, largely by their own families, by the community, and the students tried to find interesting stories there, and say these are the people who are here, and they might be forgotten, but that they're actually very interesting, and some of the stories really are quite fascinating. I mean, you've got murderers who are buried out there. The story of Chin Ting in particular, this Chinese immigrant whose case ends up being cited time and time again in the courts after the 1920s is a really interesting one. And then I think I've not yet mentioned Rhode Island College's Center for Research and Creative Activity, or CIRCA, which is overseen by Bria Governor, who's standing right here too, and all this is thanks to a grant from the Center for Research and Creative Activity. That's how we paid for everything, and we couldn't have done this without that grant money. So that's a part of Rhode Island College that is doing really amazing work right now. So I guess the last group that needs to be mentioned is the Friends of the North Burial Ground, which is putting together this ceremony and has done a lot of work to bring the public into the North Burial Ground. Again, this is a project that was collaborative and involved all these different groups: the city, the Providence Parks Department, the cemetery staff, students at RIC, CIRCA at RIC, and certainly the Friends of the North Burial Ground. And this is a project that really is thanks to all those different groups. You want to say something else, Gordon?
I just wanted to say a few words, yes. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out today. My
Introduce
name is
yourself.
Joe Witnowski. I'm the director of the neighborhood parks here in Providence. Also run the day-to-day operations here at the North Burial Ground, along with my assistant here, Jim Rocchio, in the back. Wendy Nilsson, the superintendent of the parks, she's out of state today, so she was unable to attend, but she wanted to send her well wishes here today and thank everyone as well. I have Alexandra from the mayor's office. He's unable to attend, but he did make sure that he did have someone representing the mayor's office today, so thank you for coming out today. Rhode Island College, Professor Mr. Eric here, I call him Eric, but we want to thank him and all of his students for all of the work, and it's great work. I mean, we have no signs obviously posted here at the cemetery describing any of this, and this is, if you have a chance to really look at these signs and read up on some of the history, there's also some great pictures of some items that used to be here. You'll see some fountains, there's some old pictures of some ponds that used to be here that are no longer here, the free ground history. So there's so much history here that is not, found anywhere else. You can't stop at the front gate, you can't go in the office, you can't ride through and find any of this information anywhere. So it's very valuable information to have. So, I really invite everybody to take a look at it and come back later when the signs are installed where they're going to go, and take a walking tour through here. Like Eric said, there's 110 acres inside of here, and it's a great place to walk. It's not only a place for someone to have a funeral and bury their loved ones, but we do have a lot of people that come through here and walk. It's a great place to walk. You see, once you're away from the main road, it's very quiet inside, and there's all kinds of, like you can see on some of the signs, we have, many species of birds and different, what do we have in here, Greg?
A number of different amphibian types.
There you go. So there's all different things you can see in here. It's a great place, all different kinds of trees and things like that. So I really invite everyone back to see it. So thank you very much again on behalf of the Parks Department and the City of Providence, students at RIC and Eric, and we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, do you want to come up and talk about the walking tour?
Well, Professor Lazy's or Fran, how do you want to be addressed? That guy over there. All right. We're basically going to follow him. I'm a member of the Friends group. Lisa is our chairman. Anybody wants to join us, get her your information. You're welcome to join us. But I just want to make a brief comment. I've got a vested interest here. My husband was buried here. I'm going to be buried here. But I'm also retired from Parks and Recreation, and I know that to take monies as a taxpayer or as a tax decider, to take monies from this area is at a detriment to the community. This is not for the dead. This is for the living. This is trees that are breathing oxygen, or giving us oxygen. This is open space that's rare in the city. And it's a beautiful environment that needs attention. You can't keep taking away money. You can't keep taking away personnel. All right, so I just want to make my little propaganda speech, and then we will follow Frank.
Yeah, if you want a short half-hour tour, walking tour now, I'm more than willing to lead that with Diane. And just to give you a flavor for what the cemetery holds here, both the natural environment as well as some individuals who are buried here you might find interesting. I do call it a little bit of a forced march, in the sense that we will probably move relatively quickly, but on the other hand, it's fun. We walked it this morning, and I think you'll find some interesting people if you want to. So whenever we're done with this, you finish reading, then I'll just kind of stay in here, and then when you're ready, we'll take off a little bit. Okay?